Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a sleepy corner of Greek mythology, where Hera, Queen of the Gods, is about to school you in the fine art of cloud arrangement. Picture yourself floating on a golden platform above Mount Olympus, the air crisp, scented with ozone and ambrosia. Wispy clouds swirl below, catching the pink glow of a sunset that never quite fades. Hera stands before you, her peacock feather robe shimmering, her voice sharp but soothing, like a lullaby with an edge. You're her newest intern, and she's not impressed yet. Fair warning, mastering divine meteorology is no breeze, and you probably won't survive her critique without a few divine side-eyes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local. Time. I'm curious where you're drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're hovering there, knees wobbly on this celestial stage, as Hera clears her throat to begin her lecture. Her eyes, sharp as polished obsidian, scan you like you're a mortal who forgot to sacrifice a goat. Clouds, she declares, are not just fluff in the sky. They're the gods' canvas, our messengers, our moods. You nod, trying to look competent, but the vast sky below feels like a blank page you're doomed to mess up. Hera paces, her sandals clicking on the platform, and explains that clouds have a divine purpose. They're not random. They carry omens, shape mortal fates, and reflect the gods' whims. You're here to learn how to arrange them properly, or Olympus itself might lose its luster. She starts with the basics, her voice dipping into that ASMR-worthy cadence that makes your eyelids heavy. Every cloud has a role, she says, pointing to a towering cumulonimbus in the distance, its anvil top glowing like Zeus's ego. They're not just water vapor, they're divine intent. You squint, noticing how the cloud pulses faintly, as if breathing. Hera explains that clouds are woven from ether, the god's breath, and each type cumulus, stratus, cirrus serves a specific function. Cumulus clouds, puffy and proud, signal fair weather and divine approval. Stratus low and gray, cloak, mortal secrets. Cirrus, feathery and high, whisper prophecies only the wise can read. You're expected to master them all, and Hera's tone suggests she doubts you'll manage. A historical tidbit slips into her lecture. The ancient Greeks believed clouds were the breath of the gods, a belief echoed in Hesiod's Theogony, where the sky god Uranus shaped the heavens. Hera doesn't mention Hesiod, but you feel the weight of that ancient worldview as she gestures at the sky. Then comes the quirky fact. Some fringe Greek poets claimed clouds were spun from Athena's loom, each thread a mortal's destiny. You smirk, imagining Athena knitting storm clouds, and Hera catches it. Focus, she snaps, but there's a playful glint in her eye. You're starting to like her, even if she's terrifying. She assigns you your first task. Observe a cumulus. Cloud and describe its divine purpose. You float closer, the cloud's edges curling like fresh cotton candy. It's mesmerizing, but you're distracted by a modern aside honestly. It looks like the kind of cloud you doodle on a math notebook. You mutter this, and Hera arches a brow. Mortals and their scribbles, she sighs. This cloud could bless a harvest or hide a god's affair. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw clouds as literal deities or mere symbols, but Hera's lecture leans toward the former. She's practically daring you to treat this fluff seriously. You try to focus, noting the cloud's soft peaks and radiant glow. It feels alive, humming with energy you can't quite grasp. Hera nods, barely impressed, and says, "Good. Now imagine arranging thousands of these daily." Your stomach drops thousands. You're barely managing one. She smirks, sensing your panic, and tosses in a light joke. Don't worry, I've seen worse interns. Prometheus once tried shaping clouds with fire. Disaster. You chuckle, relaxing slightly, but the scale of her world is sinking in. The sky isn't just a backdrop. It's a divine machine, and you're a cogdog. As the lecture deepens, Hera guides you through the sky's anatomy. You drift past a stratus layer, its gray expanse stretching like a cosmic blanket. She explains how these clouds temper mortal emotions, keeping their passions in check. You're tempted to ask if she uses them to hide Zeus's flings, but you bite your tongue. Here's not the type to laugh at that. Instead, you notice the air growing cooler, the platform swaying gently. It's soothing, like rocking in a hammock, and you're tempted to close your eyes. Hera's voice pulls you back. Stay awake, she teases. Clouds don't arrange themselves. Another joke lands as she points to a nimbus cloud, dark and brooding. That one's Zeus, after I catch him flirting. Steer clear. You laugh, picturing Zeus sulking under a thunderhead. The humor keeps you grounded, even as the mythology feels vast. Hera's lecture is starting to feel like a story you're living, not just hearing. She ends the session by assigning you homework. Tomorrow, you'll shape your first cumulus cloud. Don't make it look like a mortal's dog, she warns, and you're already dreading her critique. You're left floating there, the sky endless around you. Hera's words echoing like a distant lullaby. The clouds shift, catching starlight, and you feel small, but oddly connected to this divine shore. You're not sure if you're ready, but the lecture's just begun, and Hera's watching. You're back on that golden platform, the air still tingling with ozone as Hera's lecture rolls on. The clouds below shift lazily, their edges catching the eternal Olympian twilight. You're clutching the scroll she handed you, your official cloud intern assignment, and it's heavier than it looks, like it's woven from starlight. Hera's pacing again, her peacock robe trailing like a comet's tail, and she's diving into the hierarchy of clouds. The sky, she says, her voice a soothing hum with a razor's edge, is a kingdom. Every cloud has its rank, and you're the lowest. Ouch, she's not wrong. Though your first day's observation of that cumulus cloud, remember that cotton candy fluff, was shaky at best. Now, she's assigning you a role in keeping the celestial order intact, and the stakes feel higher than the stratosphere. Hera points to a towering cumulonimbus, its anvil top pulsing with faint lightning. That's royalty, she says. It commands storms, carries Zeus's wrath. You nod, trying not to flinch as a distant thunder rumbles, like Zeus clearing his throat. Below it, puffy cumulus clouds drift like loyal subjects, their edges glowing with divine favor. Stratus clouds, low and sullen, spread like a servant class, hiding mortal villages from godly scrutiny. Cirrus clouds, wispy and aloof, float highest, whispering secrets only Hera and her ilk understand. Your job? You're basically the sky's janitor, ensuring every cloud stays in its lane. Mess this up, Hera warns, and mortals get floods. Or worse, Zeus gets cranky. You swallow hard, picturing a divine HR complaint. She hands you a tool, a golden rod that hums with ether, warm in your grip like a freshly baked cookie. This shapes clouds, she says. Don't drop it. You fumble it immediately, catching it just before it plummets into the void. Hera sighs, and you swear the clouds darken. She explains the hierarchy's rules. Cumulus clouds must stay plump, but not overgrow. Stratus must remain thin to avoid gloom, and cirrus must never tangle. Nimbus clouds, the stormy ones, are for senior gods only Zeus, mostly. You're nowhere near ready for those. Your role is to patrol the lower tiers, nudging clouds into their proper ranks. It sounds simple, but the sky's vastness makes your head spin, like staring at an endless to-do list. A historical fact grounds you. The ancient Greeks saw the sky as a divine dome, with gods like Uranus and Zeus ruling its layers, as described in early cosmologies. Hera's hierarchy mirrors that, each cloud a cog in the cosmic machine. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some obscure Orphic cults believed clouds were the gods' thoughts, visible only when they argued. You chuckle, imagining Hera's thoughts as a grumpy stratus layer, and she shoots you a look. Mortals and their theories, she mutters. Historians still argue whether the Greeks viewed the sky as a physical or spiritual realm, but Hera's treating it like her personal office, and you're the intern who spilled coffee on the desk. You start your first task, nudging a cumulus cloud into alignment. You point the rod, and it glows, sending a warm pulse into the cloud. It wobbles, puffing up like a proud marshmallow, but then oops, it splits into two lopsided lumps. Hera groans. You're not sculpting bread dough, she says, her tone dripping with gentle sarcasm. You try again, sweat beading on your brow, and manage to merge the lumps into something vaguely cloud-like. It's not perfect, but Hera nods, a rare flicker of approval. Better, she says. Now do 1,000 more. Your jaw drops and she smirks, tossing in a joke. Don't worry, even Apollo flubbed his first clouds. He made one look like a liar, useless. The work's repetitive, but there's a rhythm to it, like folding laundry to a lo-fi playlist. You drift across the sky, rod humming, nudging cumulus clouds into neat rows. The air's cool, scented with something like rain and lavender, and the platform sways gently, lulling you. You're tempted to zone out, but Hera's watching, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. She floats beside you, offering pointers. Softer touch here, firmer there. It's oddly calming, her voice weaving through the sky's hum, like a bedtime story with a deadline. You're starting to get the hang of it, even if your clouds still look like a toddler's art project. Then comes the tricky part. A stratus layer's creeping too low, smothering a mortal village. Hera tasks you with lifting. You aim the rod, but the cloud's heavy, like trying to push a wet blanket uphill. It resists, and you panic, picturing Hera demoting you to mortal janitor. Breathe, she says, her voice softer now. Clouds feel your intent. You focus, imagining the stratus rising like a curtain, and slowly it obeys, revealing the village below. Hera nods, and you feel a tiny spark of pride, like acing a pop quiz. She throws in another joke as you work. Last intern made a stratus so thick, mortals thought it was night. They slept for a week. You laugh, relaxing, but the sky's scale humbles you. Each cloud's a piece of a devouring puzzle, and you're barely grasping the edges. Hera's lecture feels less like a chore now, more like a dance you're learning, step by clumsy step. She ends the session by pointing to a distant nimbus cloud, crackling with Zeus's energy. That's next, she says, and your stomach flips. But not yet. Rest. You're grateful, sinking onto the platform, the clouds below glowing like a cosmic nightlight. You're still on that golden platform, the sky sprawling around you like an endless watercolor painting. The air's crisp, carrying a faint whiff of rain and something sweet, like nectar spilled nearby. Your golden rod hums in your hand. It's ether warmth keeping your fingers from trembling as Hera's lecture takes a hands-on turn. Remember that cumulus cloud you barely nudged into shape last time? Now she's got you wrangling a whole flock of them, and her patience is thinner than a cirrus wisp. Cumulus clouds, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl laced with divine judgment, are the sky's optimists. Keep them fluffy, or mortals lose hope. You're knee-deep in your intro role, and Hera's critical gaze feels like a spotlight on your every fumble. She floats beside you, her peacock robe shimmering as she gestures at a cluster of cumulus clouds drifting below. They're puffy, sure, but some are lumpy, others too flat, like pancakes left on the griddle too long. Fix them, she orders, folding her arms. You grip the rod, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat, and aim at the nearest cloud. You're supposed to sculpt it into that classic cotton ball shape. Think of the clouds you doodled as a kid, not the dog-shaped disaster Hera warned against. The rod hums, sending ether into the cloud, and it swells, but oh no, it's ballooning too fast, like a marshmallow in a microwave. You panic, jerking the rod back, and the cloud deflates into a sad, saggy blob. Hera groans, loud enough to rattle the platform. You're not kneading dough, she says, her sarcasm as gentle as a lullaby. Try finesse. You take a breath, the air cool and calming, and try again. This time, you imagine the cloud is clay, coaxing it gently with the rod's energy. It puffs up, edges curling into soft peaks, and for a moment, it's perfect glowing. With that divine approval Hera mentioned. Then a gust from nowhere nudges it into another cloud, and they merge into a lopsided mess. You wince, expecting a lecture, but Hera just sighs. Cumulus chaos, she mutters. Every intern's curse. Her tone's softer now, almost encouraging, and you realize she's seen this disaster before. Historical fact anchors the moment. The ancient Greeks, especially in Aristotle's Meteorologica, studied clouds as natural phenomena, linking cumulus to fair weather and divine favor. Hera's obsession with their shape feels like an echo of that, making the sky a canvas for both science and myth. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Hellenistic poets claimed cumulus clouds were the souls of heroes, puffed up with pride for eternity. You smirk, picturing Achilles as a fluffy cloud, and Hera catches it. Don't mock the poets, she says, but her lips twitch like she's fighting a smile. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw clouds as meteorological or mystical, but Hera's treating these cumulus like her personal art project, and you are the shaky-handed. Apprentice dot, you keep at it, drifting across the sky, rod in hand. The platform sways gently, like a boat on a calm sea, and the repetitive task game, pulse, shape starts to lull you. The cloud's texture is mesmerizing, soft and weightless, like scooping whipped cream. You're tempted to lean into one, just to see if it's as cozy as it looks, but Hera's watching, her eyes sharp as ever. She floats closer, offering a tip. Feel the cloud's mood. Happy clouds stay round. It sounds like New Age nonsense, but when you focus, you sense it a faint hum of contentment from the cloud you're shaping. You nudge it, and it holds. Its shape, glowing brighter. Hera nods, a rare flicker of approval. Not terrible, she says, and you grin, even if it's faint praise. The work's harder than it looks. Each cloud resists in its own way. Some are stubborn, others too eager, puffing up like overzealous balloons. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth is starting to feel like a hot potato. Hera, of course, makes it look effortless, flicking her wrist to sculpt a perfect cumulus in seconds. Practice, she says, catching your envious glance. Or bribe Apollo for lessons. He's vain but talented. You laugh, the first of her jokes landing like a soft pillow. The humor keeps you going, even as your clouds still look like they belong in a beginner's sketchbook dot. Then comes the real challenge. A rogue cumulus, twice the size of the others, drifting toward a stratus layer. If they collide, Hera warns, it'll rain on a mortal festival below, and Zeus will blame her. You aim the rod, pulse steady, and try to shrink the beast. It resists, puffing defiantly, and you're sweating now. The platform sway no longer. Soothing. Focus, Hera murmurs, her voice a calming anchor. You imagine the cloud deflating, like letting air out of a tire, and slowly it shrinks, drifting back to its rank. Hera claps once, sharp and startling. Good, she says. You might survive this. She tosses in another joke as you catch your breath. Last intern made a cumulus so big, mortals thought it was a mountain. They climbed it, fools. You chuckle, the tension easing, but her frustration's still palpable. She's not just teaching you. She's venting about the chaos of her divine job. The sky's a stage, and cumulus clouds are her spotlight, but they're stubborn actors. You're starting to see her not as a queen, but as a stressed manager, and it's weirdly relatably dot. As the session winds down, you're shaping clouds with slightly less panic, though your work's still far from divine. The sky glows each cumulus a tiny sun, and the air's thick with that nectar-sweet scent. Hera ends with a warning. Tomorrow, stratus clouds. They're moodier. You groan internally, already dreading it, but there's a spark of pride you didn't completely botch today. You sink onto the platform, the clouds below shimmering like a dream, and Hera's voice lingers, soft and stern, guiding you toward sleep. You're still floating on that golden platform, the sky around you a vast tapestry of clouds, their edges tinged with the soft gold of Olympian dusk. The air's cooler now, heavy with the scent of damp earth, like a meadow after a drizzle. Your golden rod, warm and humming, feels familiar in your hand, but the weight of Hera's expectations is heavier. After your cumulus chaos, remember that road cloud you barely tamed? She's moving you to stratus clouds, and her tone suggests this is where interns either shine or crash. Stratus, she says, her voice's soothing murmur with a hint of divine exasperation, are the sky's blankets. Keep them flat, or mortals drown in gloom. You're tasked with flattening these moody layers, and Hera's watching like a teacher who knows you didn't do the reading. She guides you to a low, gray stratus layer stretching over a mortal valley below. It's thick, oppressive, like a cosmic duvet smothering the world. Too heavy, Hera mutters, her peacock robe flickering as she gestures. Thin it out. You point the rod, its ether glow pulsing, and try to lighten the cloud. The stratus resists, stubborn as wet clay, and your first pulse makes it sag even lower, threatening the valley with rain. You wince, picturing soggy mortal picnics, and Hera sighs, loud enough to ripple the cloud's edge. Subtlety, she says, her sarcasm soft but pointed. You're not wrestling a hydra. You nod, cheeks burning, and try again, imagining the cloud is a sheet you're smoothing out. Slowly, it thins, letting faint sunlight filter through. Hera grunts, not quite approval, but not a lecture either. The task is grueling. Stratus clouds are vast, stretching for miles, and flattening them feels like ironing an endless tablecloth. With a toothpick, you drift across the layer, rod humming, the platform swaying gently underfoot. The air's damp, clinging to your skin like a cool mist, and the repetitive motion pulse, smooth, repeat lulls you, like folding towels to a sleepy playlist. But Hera's presence keeps you sharp. She floats nearby, adjusting a corner of the stratus with a flick of her wrist, making it look effortless. Stratus clouds temper mortal moods, she explains. Too thick, and they despair. Too thin, and they get reckless. You nod, realizing these clouds are less about weather, and more about divine crowd control. A historical fact slips in. The ancient Greeks linked low, gray clouds to melancholy, as seen in Homeric epics where stormy skies mirrored human grief. Hera's stratus obsession feels like a mythic version of that, shaping mortal emotions from above. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some obscure Greek seers believed stratus clouds trapped the sighs of unrequited lovers, growing heavier with each heartbreak. You smirk, imagining a cloud full of mortal pining, and Hera arches a brow. Laugh now, she says, but those sighs make my job harder. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw weather as a divine mood ring or a natural cycle. But Hera is treating this stratus like a therapist tool, and you're the shaky intern holding the reins. You keep working, the rod's warmth, spreading up your arm as you smooth the stratus. It's meditative, almost soothing, but the cloud's stubborn patches test your patience. One section refuses to thin, bulging like a lumpy mattress. You pulse harder, and oops it tears, leaving a hole that lets too much sunlight through. Mortals below cheer, thinking it's a sign, but Hera's not amused. Now they'll throw a festival, she grumbles. Fix it. You scramble. Medging nearby stratus to patch the gap, can manage a decent repair. Hera nods, a flicker of respect in her eyes. Not disastrous, she says, and you take it as a win. She tosses in a joke to ease the tension. Last intern tore a stratus so wide, mortals thought it was a new sea. They built boats. You laugh, the image absurd, but it reminds you how much power you're wielding, even as a rookie. The stratus layer's starting to look uniform. Its gray expanse calm and even like a freshly made bed. You're getting the hang of it, though your arms ache and the rod feels like a lead pipe. Now, Hera notices your fatigue and softens, just a touch. Pace yourself, she says. The sky's eternal, but you're not. It's the closest she's come to kindness, and it warns you more than the rod. The bigger picture emerges as you work. Stratus clouds aren't just about gloom. They're Hera's way of balancing mortal lives. She explains how they hide divine dramas, like Zeus's affairs, though she doesn't say it, and soften the gods' harsher judgments. You're tempted to ask if she's used them to hide her own schemes, but her sharp glance shuts that thought down. Instead, you focus on a tricky patch, smoothing it with a gentle pulse. The cloud hums, almost grateful, and you feel a spark of connection, like petting a giant. Grumpy cat without another joke lands as Hera points to a distant stratus layer, too thin and wispy. That's what happens when Aphrodite meddles, she says. All love, no substance. You chuckle, picturing Aphrodite fluffing clouds into heart shapes, and the humor keeps you grounded. The session's winding down, and the stratus layer looks decent, not perfect, but Hera's not glaring. She ends with a new assignment. Tomorrow, you'll tackle nimbus clouds, the stormy ones. They're Zeus's toys, she warns, and your stomach twists. For now, you sink onto the platform, the stratus below glowing faintly, like a cosmic nightlight lulling you toward rest. You're drifting on that golden platform, the sky around you a swirling canvas of clouds, their edges catching the faint shimmer of Olympian starlight. The air's thick with the electric tang of an approaching storm, prickling your skin like static. Your golden rod hums in your grip, its ether warp the small covert as Hera's lecture takes a darker turn. After wrestling those moody stratus clouds, remember that lumpy duvet you finally smoothed? She's throwing you into the deep end. Nimbus clouds, the stormy beasts tied to Zeus's temper. Nimbus clouds, she says, her voice a low, sleepy drawl with a spark of warning, are chaos in vapor form. Tame them, or mortals pay. You're tasked with handling these thunderheads, and Hera's glare suggests one wrong move could zap you into oblivion. Not. She leads you to a towering nimbus cloud, its dark bulk pulsing with lightning, like a bruise. On the sky. It's massive, dwarfing the cumulus fluff you fumbled earlier, and its growl vibrates the platform, rattling your bones. This, Hera says, her peacock robe flaring as she gestures, is Zeus's mood swing. You swallow hard, picturing the thunder god's tantrums, and she tasks you with calming the cloud before it unleashes a deluge on a mortal city below. You point the rod, its glow flickering against the nimbus's gloom, and send a cautious pulse. The cloud snarls, lightning flashing like an angry cat's eyes, and your pulse does nothing but make it angrier. Hera sighs, her exasperation soft but cutting. "You're not poking a bear," she says. "Guided." You try again, heart pounding, imagining the cloud's energy as a wild horse you're reining in. The rod hums, its ether weaving into the nimbus, and slowly the lightning dims. The clouds growl, softening to a rumble. It's still menacing, but it's not about to drown anyone. Hera nods, her eyes narrowing. "Passable," she says, and you exhale, realizing you've been holding your breath. Handling nimbus clouds is like diffusing a bomb while riding a unicycle, and you're barely keeping balance. The platform sways, the air heavy with ozone, and the task's intensity keeps you alert, even as Hera's voice lulls you like a bedtime story. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks tied storms to divine wrath, as seen in the Iliad, where Zeus's thunderbolts signaled his displeasure. This nimbus feels like a direct line to that mythic fury, a tool of godly mood swings. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Greek mystics believed nimbus clouds were the ghosts of titans, trapped in the sky after their defeat, raging forever. You smirk, picturing a titan sulking as a thunderhead, and Hera catches it. "Laugh now," she says, "but their anger makes my job harder." Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw storms as divine punishment or natural chaos, but Hera's treating this nimbus like Zeus's personal diary, and you're the intern flipping through it. The work's relentless. You move to another nimbus, smaller but crackling with static, and try to steer it away from a mortal harbor. The rod's warmth spreads up your arm, but the cloud resists, spitting sparks that singe your tunic. You flinch, and Hera chuckles, her first joke landing softly. "Don't worry, Zeus once shocked himself with one of these. He sulked for a week." The humor eases your nerves, but the cloud's stubborn, drifting closer to the harbor. You focus, pulsing gently, and nudge it just enough to spare the ships below. Hera grunts, a flicker of approval. "You're learning," she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like acing a pop quiz. But nimbus clouds are a nightmare. Each one's different. Some are sluggish, others twitchy, like caffeine-jacked thunderstorms. You're sweating now. The platforms sway less, soothing and more like a ship in choppy waters. Hera floats nearby, tweaking a lightning bolt with a flick of her wrist, making it look like child's play. "They're tied to Zeus's heart," she explains. "When he's moody, they riot." You're tempted to ask how often she deals with his moods, but her sharp glance shuts that down. Instead, you tackle another cloud, its edges fraying like an unraveling sweater. You smooth it, barely, and avoid a hailstorm. Hera's silence feels like a win. Another joke lands as she points to a distant nimbus, spitting rain like a tantrum. "That's Zeus after I hide his thunderbolts," she says. "He'll get over it." You laugh, picturing Hera stashing Zeus's toys, and the humor keeps you grounded. The air's electric, the clouds' growls fading into a low hum, and you're starting to sense the rhythms, like taming a pack of grumpy wolves. It's exhausting, but there's a thrill in it, like you're wrestling the sky itself. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to flood any cities, though your nimbus clouds are far from perfect. Hera ends with a new warning. "Tomorrow, you'll work on cirrus clouds, the delicate ones. They're trickier than they look," she says, and your stomach twists, already dreading it. For now, you slump onto the platform, the nimbus below flickering with faint lightning, like a storm dreaming of chaos. Hera's voice lingers stern, but soothing, and the sky's electric hum lulls you toward rest, even as thunder rumbles in the distance. You're still perched on that golden platform, the sky around you, a delicate shimmer of high-altitude wisps, like gossamer threads catching the faint glow of Olympian dawn. The air's thin and crisp, tickling your lungs with a hint of frost, and something floral, like celestial jasmine. Your golden rod feels lighter now, its ether hums softer, as if tuned for precision work. After surviving those stormy nimbus clouds, remember that thunderhead you barely calmed? Hera's shifting gears to cirrus clouds, the sky's fragile aristocrats. Cirrus, she says, her voice a sleepy whisper laced with divine scrutiny. I the gods' whispers. Craft them carefully, or their secrets spill. You're tasked with shaping these feathery strands, and Hera's gaze feels like a magnifying glass on your clumsy hands. She guides you to a high-altitude layer where cirrus clouds drift, their delicate tendrils curling like smoke from a divine incense burner. They're beautiful, almost too fragile to touch, glowing faintly against the deep indigo sky. These carry prophecies, Hera explains, her peacock robe shimmering as she points to a wisp curling into a spiral. Shape them wrong, and mortals misread the god's will. You nod, gripping the rod, and aim at a cirrus strand that's fraying like an unraveling scarf. Your first pulse is too strong, and the wisp dissolves into a puff of mist. Hera groans, soft but sharp. You're not swatting flies, she says, her sarcasm a gentle lullaby. Touch them like you touch a dream. You try again, pulse. Barely a whisper, imagining the cirrus as a thread you're spinning. The rod's glow weaves into the cloud, coaxing it into a graceful arc like a comet's tail. It holds, shimmering with a faint pulse, and you feel a thrill, like drawing. A perfect line on the first try. But cirrus clouds are fickle one gust, and your arc tangles with another wisp, forming a knot. Hera sighs, floating closer. They're sensitive, she says. Like Zeus when I critique his lightning. You stifle a laugh, her joke landing. Like a soft breeze, and focus on untangling the mess. Slowly, you tease the strands apart, and Hera nods, a rare flicker of approval. Better, she says, and you bask in it, even if it's grudging. The work's delicate, like threading needles in a windstorm. You drift through the cirrus layer, rod humming, the platform swaying gently, like a cradle in the sky. The air's so cold your breath forms tiny clouds ironic, you think, and Hera catches your smirk. Focus, she murmurs, but there's a playful glint in her eye. Each cirrus wisp carries a faint hum, like a distant harp, and Hera explains there, encoded with divine messages, omens for mortals, warnings for gods. Your job is to shape them into patterns the wise can read, like celestial calligraphy. It's mesmerizing, but one wrong move, and you're scrambling to fix a prophecy that now says doom instead of bloom. A historical fact anchors the moment. The ancient Greeks had seen in texts like Pindar's odes, viewed high, feathery clouds as signs of divine favor, often linked to Apollo's oracles. Hera's cirrus obsession feels like a mythic take on that, turning the sky into a prophetic scroll. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Pythagorean mystics believe cirrus clouds were the trails of God's dreams, visible only at dawn. You grin, picturing Zeus snoring out a wisp, and Hera rolls her eyes. Mortals and their fancies, she says, but her tone's warm. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw high clouds as spiritual or meteorological, but Hera's treating these cirrus like her private inbox, and you're the intern sorting her mail. You keep at it, shaping wisps into delicate arcs and spirals. The rod's warmth is subtle now, like holding a candle, and your hands are steadier, though the cirrus still fight you, twisting like rebellious ribbons. One wisp curls into a shape that looks suspiciously like a heart, and Hera snorts. Her second joke landing. Aphrodite's been here. She thinks every cloud's a love letter. You laugh, the image absurd, and it eases the tension. But the work's intense, each wisp demands focus, and your eyes sting from staring at their faint glow. Hera notices, floating closer. Blinked, she says, almost kind. The sky won't vanish. It's a small gesture, but it grounds. You, like a friend nudging you to breathe. The bigger picture unfolds. Cirrus clouds aren't just pretty. They're Hera's way of keeping the gods' secrets safe. She hints that some wisps carry Zeus's plans, others her own countermeasures, woven so mortals only catch glimpses. You're tempted to ask if she's ever sabotaged his prophecies, but her sharp glance kills that thought. Instead, you shape a wisp into a crescent, and it hums, glowing brighter, like it approves. Hera grunts, impressed despite herself. Not awful, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like nailing a tricky chord. Her final joke lands as you finish a spiral. Wisp. Last intern made a cirrus look like a snake. Mortals panicked, thinking it was Typhon. You chuckle, picturing the chaos, and the humor keeps you steady. The cirrus layers starting to look like a celestial tapestry, your wisps blending into Hera's flawless ones. She ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll mediate cloud disputes between gods. They're worse than mortals, she warns, and your stomach flips. For now, you sink onto the platform, the cirrus below glowing like a dream catcher, their soft hum lulling you toward rest. You're still hovering on that golden platform, the sky around you a shimmering expanse of clouds, their edges glowing with the soft amber of Olympian twilight. The air's warm now, thick with the scent of ozone and something spicy, like divine incense burning nearby. Your golden rod hums faintly in your hand, its ether warmth a steady comfort as Hera's lecture takes a bureaucratic turn. After crafting those delicate cirrus wisps, remember that harp-shaped goof you barely fixed? She's thrusting you into the messy world of cloud politics. Gods bicker over clouds, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl with a sharp edge of annoyance, and you're playing referee. You're tasked with mediating divine disputes over cloud placement, and Hera's tone suggests you're about to herd cats with lightning bolts. She leads you to a chaotic patch of sky where clouds clash like rival factions. A puffy cumulus, glowing with Apollo's golden touch, is muscling into a stormy nimbus that screams Poseidon's temper. Nearby, a stratus layer, suspiciously rosy, hints at Aphrodite's meddling. They all want their clouds front and center. Hera groans, her peacock robe flaring as she gestures. Sword it. You grip the rod, its glow pulsing nervously, and try to nudge the cumulus back. It resists, puffing up like a spoiled prince, and the nimbus retaliates with a lightning flick. That singes your sandal. You yelp, and Hera sighs, her sarcasm soft but biting. You're not breaking up a mortal bar fight, she says. Use diplomacy. You take a breath, the air tingling with divine egos, and try again. You pulse the rod gently, coaxing the cumulus to shift, while sending a calming vibe to the nimbus. It's like soothing two toddlers fighting over a toy, except the toy could flood a city. The cumulus relents, drifting slightly, and the nimbus grumbles but dims its lightning. Hera nods, barely impressed. Adequate, she says, and you exhale, realizing you've dodged a divine tantrum. The platform sways, the air heavy with godly tension, and the task's chaos keeps you alert, even as Hera's voice lulls you like a bedtime story gone rogue. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks often depicted gods as territorial, as seen in theogony, where divine domains like sky and sea sparked epic feuds. Hera's cloud politics feel like a mythic HOA meeting, with gods staking claims on the heavens. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some obscure Delphic oracles claimed clouds shifted when gods gossiped, their whispers reshaping the sky. You smirk, picturing Apollo spilling tea in a cumulus, and Hera catches it. Laugh now, she says, but their chatter ruins my work. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw divine conflicts as literal or symbolic, but Hera's treating this sky like a divine chessboard, and you're the pawn. The disputes keep coming. You float to a new mess, A cirrus wisp, sharp and precise, is tangled with a stratus layer that's too thick, reeking of Athena's strategic meddling. She wants her omens clear, Hera mutters, but she's clogging my sky. You aim. The rod, untangling the cirrus with a delicate pulse, then thinning the stratus to let it breathe. It's like untangling Christmas lights while someone's yelling about aesthetics. The clouds settle, and Hera grunts, a flicker of approval. Not awful, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like surviving a group project. Her first joke lands as you tackle another dispute. A nimbus cloud, crackling with Zeus's energy, is bullying a cumulus into submission. He thinks every cloud's his throne, Hera says, rolling her eyes. Push back. You laugh, picturing Zeus pouting, and nudge the nimbus with a firm pulse. It retreats, grumbling, and the cumulus puffs up, grateful. The humor eases the tension, but the work's exhausting. Each god's cloud carries their ego, and you're juggling divine pride with a stick. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a hot coal now. The bigger picture emerges. Cloud politics aren't just about placement. They're Hera's way of keeping Olympus in check. She hints that every cloud dispute reflects a godly power struggle, and her job is to balance them without sparking a cosmic war. You're tempted to ask if she ever lets Zeus's clouds lose, but her sharp glance kills that thought. Instead, you mediate a final dispute, a rosy cumulus, Aphrodite again, crowding a stormy nimbus. You coax them apart, Hera's second joke lands. Aphrodite once made a cloud so pink, mortals thought it was dawn. They woke up at midnight. You chuckle, the absurdity calming you. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to start a divine riot, though your clouds are far from perfect. Hera ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll tackle mortal myths about clouds. They get everything wrong, she warns, and your stomach twists, dreading the homework. For now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below swirling like a divine soap opera, their faint hum lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still drifting on that golden platform, the sky around you a sprawling mosaic of clouds, their edges catching the soft violet of Olympian dusk. The air's cool now, carrying a faint whiff of rain and something earthy, like damp clay. From a mortal field below, your golden rod hums gently in your hand, its ether warmth a quiet anchor as Hera's lecture shifts to a new headache. Mortal misconceptions. After navigating those godly cloud disputes, remember that nimbus shoving Apollo's cumulus? She's got you correcting mortal myths about clouds. Mortals, she says, her voice a sleepy murmur laced with divine irritation, mangle our work with their stories, fix their nonsense. You're tasked with reshaping clouds to counter their wrong ideas, and Hera's tone suggests you're about to rewrite a cosmic Wikipedia page. She points to a fluffy cumulus below, glowing like a divine marshmallow. Mortals, think that's a chariot for heroes, she scoffs, her peacock robe flickering. It's just weather. You're supposed to tweak it to look less heroic, more mundane, to stop mortals from praying to it. You aim the rod, its glow pulsing softly, and try to flatten the cumulus into a boring lump. It resists, puffing up defiantly, like it enjoys the attention. Your first pulse makes it wobble into a shape that looks like a giant sheep. Hera groans. Her sarcasm is gentle as a lullaby. You're not sculpting for a fable, she says. Make it dull. You nod, cheeks burning, and try again, imagining the cloud as a plain gray blob. Slowly, it deflates, losing its heroic glow. Hera grunts, not thrilled, but not scolding either. The task is tedious. Mortals, it turns out, have a wild imagination. Every cloud's a god, a monster, or a prophecy to them. You float across the sky, rod in hand, tweaking cumulus, stratus, and even a stray cirrus to look less divine. The platform sways softly, like a hammock in a breeze, and the repetitive work pulse, reshape, repeat lulls you, though Hera's sharp gaze keeps you from dozing. The air's damp, clinging to your skin, and each cloud hums faintly, like it's annoyed at losing its mythic flair. Hera explains why this matters. Mortal myths can shift the gods' power if they get too popular. Let them worship a cloud, she says, and Zeus gets jealous. You nod, picturing Zeus sulking over a fluffy rival. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks often tied clouds to divine signs, as seen in Aeschylus's tragedies, where stormy skies signaled godly intervention. Hera's frustration feels like a mythic version of that, fighting to keep the sky's purpose clear. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Ionian poets claimed clouds were the gods' laundry, hung out to dry after cosmic feasts. You smirk, imagining Hera pegging up a nimbus, and she catches it. Laugh now, she says, but mortals believe worse. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw clouds as symbolic or literal deities, but Hera's treating them like her personal brand, and you're the intern scrubbing out fake news. You keep working, reshaping a stratus layer that mortals think is a sleeping giant. You thin it out, making it look like playing fog, but it fights you, sagging like a grumpy blanket. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels heavy now, like gripping hot mug too long. Hera floats nearby, tweaking a cumulus with a flick of her wrist, making it look effortlessly dull. Practice, she says, catching your envious glance. Her first joke lands. Last intern made a cloud look like a dragon. Mortals sacrificed goats to it. You laugh, the absurdity easing your tension, but the work's relentless. Each myth you squash spawns another. Then comes a tricky one, a cirrus wisp mortals think is a goddess's veil. You try to unravel it, but your pulse tangles it into a knot, and now it looks like a crown. Hera sighs. Now they'll build a temple, she mutters. You scramble to fix it, teasing the wisp into a shapeless streak, and Hera nods, a flicker of approval. Not terrible, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like fixing a typo before the boss sees. Her second joke lands as you tackle a nimbus mortals call a titan's fist. They thought one was Poseidon's trident once. He loved it, but it was my stratus. You chuckle, picturing Poseidon preening, and the humor keeps you steady. Bigger picture emerges. Correcting mortal myths is Hera's way of keeping the gods' narrative tight. She hints that every wrong story risks mortals worshipping the wrong thing, throwing Olympus off balance. You're tempted to ask if she's ever let a myth slide for fun, but her sharp glance shuts that down. Instead, you dull a final cumulus, stripping its heroic glow, and it hums, almost sulky. Hera's third joke lands. Mortals once called a cloud Hera's throne. I flattened it. No one sits above me. You laugh, her sass grounding you, and the sky starting to look boringly normal, your work blending into her flawless tweaks. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to spark a new mortal cult, though. Your clouds are still a bit too sheepish. Hera ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll handle sky maintenance. It's grunt work, she warns, and your stomach sinks, dreading the chores. For now, you sink onto the platform, the clouds, below glowing faintly, like a cosmic fog lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a hazy dream. You're still floating on that golden platform, the sky around you a vast swirl of clouds, their edges glowing with the soft pearl of Olympian moonlight. The air's crisp, tinged with the scent of wet stone and a faint hint of ambrosia, like a divine after-party just cleared out. Your golden rod hums in your grip, its ether warmth a steady pulse, as Hera's lecture dives into the grunt work of sky maintenance. After debunking those mortal cloud myths, remember that sheep-shaped cumulus you dulled? She's got you scrubbing the heavens clean. The sky's a machine, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl with a touch of divine fatigue. And you're the janitor. You're tasked with the tedious labor behind perfect clouds, and Hera's tone suggests this is where interns earn their keep or quit. She points to a patchy cumulus below, its edges frayed like a worn quilt. That's cosmic dust, she mutters, her peacock robe shimmering as she gestures. Clean it. You aim the rod, its glow flickering, and try to smooth the cloud surface. The dust resists, clinging like glitter on a craft project, and your first pulse scatters it into a hazy smear. Hera sighs, her sarcasm soft but sharp. You're not polishing mortal boots, she says. Be precise. You nod, cheeks warm, and try again, imagining the cloud as a canvas you're wiping clean. Slowly, the dust dissolves, and the cumulus glows, crisp and plump. Hera grunts, not quite impressed, but not scolding either. The work's relentless. Sky maintenance means scrubbing dust from cumulus, untangling cirrus knots, and patching stratus tears endless chores to keep the heavens pristine. You drift across the sky, rod in hand, the platform swaying gently, like a boat on a lazy river. The air's cool, brushing your skin like a damp cloth, and the repetitive task's pulse. Clean, smooth lull you, though Hera's watchful eye keeps you sharp. Each cloud hums faintly, like it's grumpy about the cleanup, and Hera explains why it matters. A dusty sky dims divine glory, and Zeus hates a dull backdrop. He's vain, she says, and you nod, picturing him preening in a thunderstorm. A historical fact anchors the moment. The ancient Greeks saw the sky as a polished dome, as described in early cosmologies, like those of Anaximander, reflecting divine perfection. Hera's maintenance obsession mirrors that, keeping the heavens camera-ready for godly egos. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Eleusinian mystics believed cosmic dust was the gods' shed skin, flaking off during their feasts. You smirk, imagining Hera vacuuming Zeus's dandruff as she catches it. Laugh now, she says, but it's a mess to clean. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw the sky as a physical or metaphysical space, but Hera's treating it like her personal penthouse, and you're the maid. You keep at it, tackling a stratus layer clogged with dust, making it heavy and gray. You pulse the rod, thinning it out, but it fights you, sagging like a soggy towel. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a hot iron now. Hera floats nearby, clearing a cirrus knot with a flick of her wrist, making it look like dusting. A shelf. Routine, she says, catching your envious glance. Her first joke lands. Last intern left dust so thick, mortals thought it was night. They stargazed at noon. You laugh, the absurdity easing your fatigue. But the work's grueling, each cloud's a puzzle, and you're missing half the pieces. Then comes a tough one. A nimbus cloud, crackling with static, has trapped dust in its lightning veins. You try to clean it, but your pulse sparks a tiny bolt that zaps your fingers. You flinch, and Hera's second joke lands. Zeus loves his sparks. He once fried an intern's tunic for fun. You chuckle, rubbing your hand, and try again, pulsing gently to clear the dust without triggering a storm. It works, barely, and Hera nods, a flicker of approval. Not bad, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like fixing a leaky faucet. The bigger picture unfolds. Sky maintenance isn't just cleaning. It's Hera's way of keeping the cosmos stable. She hints that dust can disrupt prophecies, or weaken storms, throwing Olympus off kilter. You're tempted to ask if she's ever skipped a chore to mess with Zeus, but her sharp glance shuts that down. Instead, you patch a cirrus tear, its edges humming gratefully, and Hera's third. Joke lands. Athena once tried organizing my clouds. Now I hide her gusters. You laugh, picturing Athena with a cosmic Swiffer, and the humor keeps you grounded. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to cloud the sky with dust, though your work's still a bit patchy. Hera ends with a new challenge. Tomorrow, Zeus will inspect your clouds. He's picky, she warns, and your stomach churns, dreading his critique. For now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below glowing clean and soft, like a freshly laundered quilt lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a hazy dream. You're still perched on that golden platform, the sky around you a radiant expanse of clouds, their edges shimmering with the soft gold of Olympian midday. The air's warm, buzzing with the faint crackle of divine energy and a whiff of scorched air, like a lightning bolt just missed you. Your golden rod hums in your grip, its ether warmth pulsing like a nervous heartbeat, as Hera's lecture takes a nerve-wracking turn. After scrubbing the sky clean, remember that dusty nimbus you zapped? She's prepping you for the ultimate test, Zeus's inspection. He's coming to judge your clouds, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl with a spark of urgency. And he's as picky as a mortal chef. You're defending your work against his unpredictable critiques, and Hera's tense posture suggests even she's on edge. She leads you to a pristine cloudscape you've been shaping cumulus, stratus, and cirrus, all polished from your maintenance grind. They glow like a divine art gallery, but Hera's not celebrating yet. Zeus notices everything, she warns, her peacock robe flaring as she adjusts a stray wisp. You clutch the rod, its glow flickering, and try to spot flaws before he arrives. A cumulus looks slightly lumpy, like a pillow with bad stuffing, so you pulse it smooth. But oops, it puffs too much, crowding a stratus layer. Hera sighs, her sarcasm soft but pointed. You're not fluffing a mortal's bed, she says. Keep it balanced. You nod, cheeks burning, and fix it, thinning the cumulus just as a distant thunder rumbles Zeus's. Close. Suddenly, he's there, looming on a chariot of storm clouds, lightning crackling around him like a bad mood. His beard's a tangle of static, and his eyes scan your work like a critic at a gallery opening. Here is new intern, eh? He booms, voice shaking the platform. You nod, knees wobbly, and he points to your stratus layer. Too gray, looks like Poseidon sulking. You pulse the rod, lightening it, but it thins too much, letting sunlight blaze through. Zeus snorts. Now it's Apollo's ego. Hera steps in, her voice calm but firm, defending you. It's a work in progress, dear. You're grateful, but Zeus is already eyeing your cirrus wisps, muttering about sloppy prophecies. The inspection's brutal. Zeus floats through your cloudscape, poking at every detail your cumulus isn't plump enough. Your nimbus lacks punch. You scramble to adjust, rod humming, the platform swaying like a ship in a squall. The air's electric stinging. Your skin, and each critique feels like a lightning jab. Hera hovers nearby, countering Zeus's complaints with subtle defenses. The intern's luring curve is steep, but promising. Her support keeps you grounded, even as Zeus grumbles about a nimbus you tamed earlier, claiming it's too tame for my storms. You're tempted to snap that he should try shaping it himself, but Hera's sharp glance keeps you quiet. A historical fact anchors the moment. The ancient Greeks saw Zeus as the sky's ultimate ruler, as in Hesiod's Theogony were his storms. Enforced divine order. This inspection feels like a mythic performance review, with you as the nervous employee. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Arcadian cults believed Zeus judged mortal souls by their cloud shadows, deeming them worthy. Or not. You smirk, imagining him grading your cumulus like a soul, and Hera catches it. Focus, she murmurs, but her lips twitch. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw Zeus's storms as justice or chaos, but he's treating your clouds like his personal brand, and you're the intern who smudged it. Zeus's critiques keep coming. He jabs at his cirrus wisp, calling it a prophecy my dog could write. You tweak it, curling it into a sharper arc, and he grunts, mildly appeased. Hera's first joke lands as he nitpicks a stratus. He once called my clouds dull, then stole them for his storms. You laugh, easing the tension, but your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a branding iron. Zeus finally pauses, eyeing your nimbus, and Miracle of Miracles nods. Got some spark, he says, and you feel a spark of pride, like passing a pop quiz you didn't study for. Hera's second joke lands, as Zeus critiques a cumulus. He thinks every cloud's a throne. I remind him who arranges them. You chuckle, picturing Hera sassing him, and it keeps you steady. The inspection's wrapping up, and you've managed not to spark a divine meltdown, though your clouds are still a bit mortal. Zeus leaves with a final grumble. Not bad, intern. Don't ruin my sky. Hera exhales, her relief palpable, and turns to you. You survived, she says, a rare warmth in her tone. Her third joke lands. Last intern's clouds made Zeus sneeze. He flooded a village. You laugh the absurdity, calming you. The bigger picture sinks in. Zeus's inspection isn't just about clouds. It's Hera's way of proving her control over the sky, even under his gaze. You're tempted to ask if she ever tweaks clouds to annoy him, but her sharp glance shuts that down. Instead, you smooth a final cumulus, its glow humming softly, and Hera nods, impressed despite herself. The session ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll sculpt clouds into divine art. It's not just function, she warns, it's flair. Your stomach twists, dreading the pressure, but for now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below sparkling like a cosmic chandelier, their soft hum lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still floating on that golden platform, the sky around you a luminous canvas of clouds, their edges catching the rosy glow of Olympian sunset. The air soft, scented with a mix of cool mist and something sweet, like divine honey drizzled nearby. Your golden rod hums gently in your hand, its ether warmth a steady pulse, as Hera's lecture shifts to a creative challenge. After surviving Zeus's inspection, remember that nimbus he grudgingly liked? She's pushing you to sculpt clouds into divine art. Clouds aren't just tools, she says, her voice a sleepy murmur with a spark of inspiration. They're our masterpieces. You're tasked with blending art and function, shaping clouds into symbols that dazzle mortals and gods alike, and Hera's expectant gaze feels like a spotlight on your shaky skills. She guides you to a blank patch of sky, a rare empty space, where clouds wait to be molded. Make a symbol, she says, her peacock robe shimmering as she gestures. Something worthy of Olympus. You're supposed to craft a cumulus into a divine emblem maybe, a laurel wreath or a peacock feather to signal Hera's glory. You aim the rod, its glow pulsing softly, and try to shape the cloud. Your first pulse is too eager, and the cumulus bloats into a lumpy blob, like a toddler's clay project. Hera sighs, her sarcasm gentle but pointed. You're not carving a mortal's soup bowl, she says. Aim for elegance. You nod, cheeks warm, and try again, imagining a graceful wreath. Slowly, the cloud curls into soft loops, glowing faintly. It's not perfect, but Hera grunts, a flicker of approval. The work's intricate, like painting with vapor. You drift through the sky, rod in hand, sculpting cumulus into wreaths, stratus into shields, and cirrus into delicate lyres. The platform sways softly, like a cradle in a breeze, and the creative process pulse, Shape, refine lulls you though Hera's. Sharp eye keeps you focused. The air is misty, clinging to your skin, and each cloud hums, almost eager to become art. Hera explains the stakes. These symbols aren't just pretty, they reinforce divine power, reminding mortals who rules the sky. A good wreath, she says, keeps Zeus's ego in check. You nod, picturing him sulking under your cloud art. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks used art to honor gods, as seen in Pindar's odes, where poetic imagery of the sky glorified. Divine might. Hera's cloud artistry feels like a mythic version of that, turning vapor into propaganda. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Cretan priests believed clouds shaped like symbols with a god's signatures, etched for mortal seers. Smirk, imagining Hera signing her name in a stratus, and she catches it. Laugh now, she says, but mortals obsess over these. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw sky patterns as art or omens, but Hera's treating this like her personal gallery, and you're the shaky apprentice. You keep sculpting. Tackling a stratus, you're turning into a shield. It's stubborn, sagging like wet dough, and your pulse makes it look more like a pancake. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels heavy, like gripping a hot pen. Hera floats nearby, crafting a flawless peacock feather from a cirrus with a flick of her wrist. Vision, she says, catching your envious glance. Her first joke lands. Last intern made a cloud look like a sandal. Mortals thought it was Hermes's. You laugh, the absurdity easing your tension, but the work's demanding. Each symbol needs precision, and your reefs still look like lumpy halos dot. Then comes a tricky one. A cirrus you're shaping into. A lyre for Apollo. Your pulse tangles it into a knot, and now it looks like a spiderweb. Hera groans. Now mortals will think it's Arachne's revenge, she mutters. You scramble to fix it, teasing the wisp into strings, and it hums, glowing. Softly. Hera nods, a rare spark of respect. Not awful, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like nailing a sketch. Her second joke lands as you shape a cumulus into a throne. Zeus wanted his throne fluffier. I made it flat. He whined. You chuckle, picturing Hera's sass, and it keeps you steady. The bigger picture unfolds. Cloud artistry is Hera's way of weaving divine narratives into the sky, balancing beauty and power. She hints that each symbol subtly shifts mortal reverence, strengthening her influence. You're tempted to ask if she's ever sculpted a cloud to shade Zeus, but her sharp glance shuts that down. Instead, you craft a final wreath, its loops, humming with ether, and Hera's third joke lands. Athena tried sculpting once. Her howl looked like a pigeon. You laugh, her wit grounding you, and the sky starting to sparkle with your art, blending into Hera's flawless creations. Session's winding down, and you've managed not to ruin the sky's aesthetic, though your symbols are still a bit wobbly. Hera ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll reenact a mythic storm. It's drama, she warns, and you are the stagehand. Your stomach twists, dreading the spectacle, but for now, you sink onto the platform, the clouds below, glowing like a cosmic mural, their soft hum lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still hovering on that golden platform, the sky around you a turbulent swirl of clouds, their edges flickering with the stormy gray of Olympian tempest. The air is heavy, crackling with ozone, and the sharp tang of impending rain, like a divine squall about to break. Your golden rod pulses in your grip, its ether warmth a faint covert as Hera's lecture dives into epic drama. After sculpting those artistic clouds, remember that wobbly wreath you barely pulled off? She's thrusting you into a mythic reenactment. Storms are stories, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl with a spark of intensity, and you're staging one. You're assigned a role in recreating a legendary cloud battle, and Hera's commanding presence feels like a director's glare on a chaotic set. She points to a roiling nimbus below, its dark bulk pulsing with lightning, like a cosmic beast, ready to pounce. "That's our star," she says, her peacock robe flaring as she gestures. "Make it clash like the gods' war with the titans." You're supposed to shape this nimbus and a cluster of cumulus into a stormy spectacle, mimicking an ancient divine feud. You aim the rod, its glow struggling against the nimbus's gloom, and pulse to amplify its thunder. The cloud roars too loud, shaking the platform and scattering the cumulus into frantic puffs. Hera groans, her sarcasm soft but cutting. "You're not summoning a hurricane," she says. "Control the drama." You nod, heart racing, and try again, imagining the nimbus as a moody actor you're directing. Slowly it rumbles, lightning flashing in rhythm, and the cumulus swirl like a chorus. The task is chaotic. You drift through the sky, rod humming, orchestrating clouds into a battle-scene nimbus, clashing, cumulus dodging, stratus looming like a grim backdrop. The platform bucks like a ship in a gale, and the air's electric, stinging your skin. The work pulse, shape, cue keeps you sharp, though Hera's voice lulls you, like a bedtime story with a thunderstorm soundtrack. Each cloud hums, alive with energy, and Hera explains the stakes. These reenactments remind mortals of divine power, keeping their awe alive. "A good storm," she says, "makes them pray harder." You nod, picturing Zeus basking in mortal fear. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks, as in the Iliad, saw storms as divine battles, with gods like Zeus wielding thunder to assert dominance. Hera's reenactment feels like a mythic blockbuster, staging cosmic history for mortal eyes. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Thracian seers believe storm clouds were the gods' war drums, beaten to rally their forces. You smirk, imagining Hera banging a nimbus, and she catches it. "Laugh now," she says, but mortals tremble at these. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw storms as literal battles or metaphors, but Hera's treating this like her personal theater, and you're the stagehand. You keep at it, cueing a cumulus to swirl around the nimbus, like a warrior, dodging a titan's fist. It's tricky the cumulus keeps puffing too big, stealing the spotlight. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a hot coal. Hera floats nearby, tweaking a lightning bolt with a flick of her wrist, making it look like child's play. Her first joke lands. Last intern made a storm so wild, mortals thought it was chaos reborn. You laugh, easing the tension, but the nimbus is stubborn, spitting sparks when you try to tone it down. You pulse gently, and it settles, rumbling. Like a grumpy giant dot, then comes a tough one. A stratus layer you're shaping into a dark veil, like the Titan's shadow. Your pulse makes it sag, threatening a deluge. Hera sighs. "Now they'll think it's a flood omen," she mutters. You scramble, thinning it into a menacing haze, and it hums, adding gravitas to the scene. Hera nods, a flicker of respect. "Not bad," she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like nailing a dramatic line. Her second joke lands as you cue a cirrus to streak like a divine hero. Apollo tried directing once. His storm looked like a sunny day. You chuckle, picturing his flop, and it keeps you steady. The bigger picture unfolds. These storm reenactments are Hera's way of flexing divine narrative, reminding everyone gods and mortals who controls the sky. She hints that each clash echoes real Olympian power struggles, carefully staged to avoid actual war. You're tempted to ask if she's ever amped the storm to shade Zeus, but her sharp glance kills that thought. Instead, you cue a final nimbus clash, its thunder booming, like a curtain call, and Hera's third joke lands. "Poseidon once crashed my storm with waves. I dried his seas for a week. You laugh, her sass grounding you, and the sky's alive with your spectacle, blending into Hera's flawless direction. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to drown the mortal world, though your storm's a bit overzealous. Hera ends with a new task. Tomorrow, you'll manage lesser cloud deities. They're petty, she warns, and your stomach churns, dreading the divine office politics. For now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below rumbling, softly like a fading applause, lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still perched on that golden platform, the sky around you a shimmering bureaucracy of clouds, their edges glowing with the soft lavender of Olympian twilight. The air's warm, tinged with the scent of ozone, and a faint whiff of divine parchment, like a celestial office just processed a stack of decrees. Your golden rod hums faintly in your grip, its ether warmth a steady pulse, as Hera's lecture dives into divine management. After staging that mythic storm, remember that nimbus you barely kept from going full hurricane? She's tossing you into the chaos of supervising lesser cloud deities. They're worse than mortals, she says, her voice a sleepy drawl, with a sharp edge of exasperation. And you're their babysitter. You're tasked with managing these petty sky spirits, and Hera's tone suggests you're about to wrangle a flock of divine toddlers. She leads you to a bustling patch of sky where minor deities wispy, glowing figures with cloud-like forms nod around, bickering over their tasks. One's puffing up a cumulus too big, another's tangling a cirrus into knots, and a third soaking in a stratus, making it gloomier. They're lazy, Hera mutters, her peacock robe flaring as she gestures. Keep them in line. You aim the rod, its glow flickering, and try to nudge the cumulus deity back to work. It hisses, puffing the cloud defiantly, and your pulse only makes it smirk. Hera sighs, her sarcasm soft but biting. You're not hurting mortal sheep, she says. Command them. You nod, heart sinking, can try again, pulsing the rod with authority. The deity grumbles but shrinks the cumulus. Can you exhale? Dodging a mini rebellion, the work's maddening. These deities think junior gods with too much ego and not enough skill squabble over every cloud, each claiming their patch of sky is the most important. You float through the chaos, rod in hand, the platform swaying like a desk in a busy office. The air's buzzing, prickling your skin with divine static, and the task direct, correct, repeat keeps you alert, though Hera's soothing voice lulls you like a bedtime story with a corporate twist. Each deity hums, their clouds reflecting their moods, and Hera explains why this matters. These spirits maintain the sky's daily rhythm, and if they slack, mortals suffer storms or drought. They're the cogs, she says, and Zeus hates a broken machine. You nod, picturing him zapping a lazy deity. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks believed in minor deities, like nymphs and daemons, who manage natural elements as seen in Homeric hymns. Hera's cloud spirits feel like a mythic HR department, keeping the sky's gears turning. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some obscure Peloponnesian cults thought these deities were mortal souls promoted to sky duties, forever squabbling for divine favor. You smirk, imagining a mortal intern turned cloud gremlin, and Hera catches it. Laugh now, she says, but they're a headache. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw these spirits as independent or extensions of major gods, but Hera's treating them like her personal staff, and you're the male manager. You keep at it, corralling a cirrus deity who's weaving omens too cryptic, making mortals panic. You pulse the rod, simplifying the wisp, but the deity pouts, tangling it again. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a hot stapler. Hera floats nearby, scolding a stratus deity with a glance, making it look effortless. Her first joke lands. Last intern let these spirits run wild. Mortals thought the sky was falling. You laugh, easing the tension. But the deities are relentless ones, no, overstuffing a nimbus, whisking a flash flood. You bark an order, and it complies, sulkily. Hera nods, a flicker of approval. Not terrible, she says, and you feel a spark of pride, like surviving a staff meeting. Then comes a tough one. A sulky deity clogging a stratus with gloom, upset over a slight from Apollo. Your pulse to lighten, it sparks a tantrum. And the stratus darkens, threatening rain. Hera groans. Now they'll blame me for a deluge, she mutters. You soothe the deity with a gentle pulse, and it relents, thinning the cloud. Hera's second joke lands. Apollo once charmed these spirits. I had pink clouds for a month. You chuckle, picturing her horror, and it keeps you steady. The bigger picture unfolds. Managing these deities is Hera's way of delegating divine order, ensuring the sky runs smoothly without her micromanaging. You're tempted to ask if she's ever fired a spirit, but her sharp glance shuts that down. You direct a final deity, shaping a cumulus into a neat puff, and it hums, almost grateful. Hera's third joke lands. Zeus tried managing them once. They made a cloud look like Hera. He's still sorry. You laugh, her sass grounding you, and the sky's starting to hum with order, your efforts blending into Hera's flawless oversight. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to spark a divine strike, though the deities still grumble. Hera ends with a new challenge. Tomorrow, you'll face a final exam on cloud arranging. It's your test, she warns, and your stomach churns, dreading the pressure. For now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below going softly, like a cosmic spreadsheet, lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still floating on that golden platform, the sky around you a radiant tapestry of clouds, their edges shimmering with the soft silver of Olympian starlight. The air's cool, laced with the faint scent of rain and a whisper of divine nectar, like a celestial feast just faded. Your golden rod hums in your grip, its ether warmth a nervous pulse, as Hera's lecture reaches its climax, the final exam. After wrangling those petty cloud deities, remember that sulky stratus spirit you barely calmed? She's testing your full cloud arranging skills. This is your moment, she says. Her voice a sleepy drawl, with a spark of divine expectation, or your downfall. Your internship hangs in the balance, and Hera's piercing gaze feels like a cosmic spotlight on your every move. She points to a vast, chaotic sky patch cumulus bloating, stratus sagging, cirrus tangling, and a nimbus crackling with rogue lightning. Fix it all, she commands, her peacock robe flaring as she folds her arms. You're to shape a harmonious cloudscape, blending function and art with no room for error. You grip the rod, its glow flickering, and start with the cumulus, pulsing to sculpt it into a plump, glowing puff. It resists, ballooning into a lumpy mess, and your heart sinks, picturing Hera demoting you to mortal janitor. She sighs, her sarcasm soft but sharp. You're not needing mortal bread, she says. Focus. You nod, sweat beading, and try again, imagining the cloud as clay. Slowly it forms, glowing with divine approval, and you exhale, one hurdle down. The exam's brutal. You drift through the sky, rod humming, tackling each cloud type with every trick you've learned. The platform sways like a tightrope underfoot, and the air's electric, prickling your skin with the weight of Hera's judgment. You thin, stratus layer, keeping it light to avoid mortal gloom, then untangle a cirrus wisp into a prophetic arc. The nimbus is trickiest, its lightning snaps at your rod, but you pulse gently, taming it into a rumbling backdrop. Each task builds on. The last, like a puzzle you're solving mid-flight, and Hera's silence is deafening, her eyes tracking your every move. The clouds hum, alive with ether, and you feel their moods happy cumulus, moody stratus, secretive cirrus guiding your pulses. A historical fact grounds the moment. The ancient Greeks saw the sky as a divine stage, as in the Odyssey, where gods manipulated weather to test mortal worth. Hera's exam feels like a mythic trial, judging your place in her cosmic order. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Dorian mystics believe cloud arrangements were the gods' final exams for mortal souls, determining their afterlife. You smirk, imagining yourself graded for eternity, and Hera catches it. Laugh now, she says, but this sky's your fate. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw weather as a test or a whim, but Hera's treating this like her personal gauntlet, and you're the sweaty contestant. You keep at it, shaping a cirrus into a delicate lyre, its strings humming with prophecy. It's almost perfect, but a gust tangles it, and you scramble to fix it, pulse steady. Your arms ache, and the rod's warmth feels like a hot coal, but Hera's first joke lands, easing the strain. Last intern's exam made a nimbus. So wild, mortals thought it was Typhon's return. You laugh, picturing the chaos, and it steadies you. The stratus is next, and you smooth it into a calm veil, avoiding the gloom you botched in training. The nimbus rumbles, but you coax its lightning into a soft flicker, like a stage light. And Hera grunts, a flicker of respect. Not awful, she says, and you feel a spark of hope, like acing a final question. The toughest challenge is blending them all, cumulus glowing, stratus balanced, cirrus whispering, nimbus dramatic bite. Controlled. You pulse the rod, weaving their energies, and the clouds start to sing together, like a divine orchestra. A cumulus drifts too close to the nimbus, threatening a storm, and you nudge it back, heart pounding. Hera's second joke lands. Zeus failed my exam once. His clouds looked like sheep. You chuckle, picturing his pout, and it keeps you focused. The sky's transforming, your cloudscape glowing with purpose, and you're starting to believe you might pass. The bigger picture unfolds. This exam isn't just about clouds, it's Hera, testing your ability to wield divine responsibility. She hints that a good cloudscape stabilizes Olympus, keeping gods and mortals in harmony. You're tempted to ask if she's ever flunked Zeus for fun, but her sharp glance kills that thought. Instead, you polish a final tumulus, its glow humming. With pride, and Hera's third joke lands. Athena tried my exam. Her clouds were too square. You laugh, her sass grounding you, and the sky's now a masterpiece, your work blending into Hera's flawless vision. The session's winding down, and you've managed not to ruin the heavens, though your cloudscape has a few mortal quirks. Hera ends with a rare nod. You'll do. Your heart leaps, but she adds, tomorrow, you graduate. Your stomach twists, unsure what that means, but for now, you slump onto the platform, the clouds below sparkling like a cosmic diploma, their soft hum lulling you toward rest. Hera's voice lingers, stern but soothing, guiding you into a dreamy haze. You're still drifting on that golden platform, the sky around you a breathtaking panorama of clouds, their edges glowing with the gentle blush of Olympian dawn. The air soft, carrying the faint scent of dew and a whisper of ambrosia, like the heavens just exhaled a sigh of relief. Your golden rod hums faintly in your hand, its ether warmth a quiet companion as Hera's lecture reaches its serene finale. After passing that grueling exam, remember that nimbus you coaxed into harmony? She's granting you graduation, a moment to craft a final cloudscape as her apprentice. This is your legacy, she says, her voice a sleepy murmur with a rare warmth, so make it shine. You're tasked with weaving a celestial masterpiece, and Hera's approving nod feels like a cosmic diploma in your grasp. She gestures to a vast, open sky, a blank canvas of pale blue waiting for your touch. Create something eternal, she says, her peacock robe shimmering softly, as if reflecting your potential. You grip the rod, its glow steady now, and begin with a cumulus, pulsing to shape it into a radiant orb, glowing like a divine lantern. It forms perfectly, no lumps or wobbles, and you smile, feeling the confidence earned from weeks of fumbles. You add a stratus layer, thin and delicate, draping it like a silken veil to soften the mortal world below. The platform sways gently, like a cradle in the sky, and the air is cool, rushing your skin with a soothing mist. Each cloud hums, alive with ether, and you weave them together, cumulus for hope, stratus for calm, cirrus wisps curling like prophetic threads, and the nimbus humming with just enough drama to awe. The work feels natural now, like painting with light. You float through the sky, rod in hand, sculpting a cloudscape that sings of balance and beauty. The cumulus glows, the stratus hums, the cirrus dances, and the nimbus rumbles softly, all in harmony. Hera floats nearby, her silence a gift, letting you take the lead. The sky's alive with your creation, each cloud a note in a divine symphony, and you feel a swell of pride, like an artist unveiling their masterpiece. Hera's voice breaks through, soft but clear. You've learned well. It's the highest praise she's given, and your chest tightens, knowing this is your farewell to her tutelage. A historical fact anchors the moment. The ancient Greeks saw the sky as a divine tapestry, as in theogony, where gods wove their will into the heavens for mortals to marvel at. Your cloudscape feels like a mythic echo, a final offering to that tradition. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some fringe Aeolian poets believed clouds were the gods' love letters, shaped to confess their passions. You smirk, imagining Hera crafting a cumulus for Zeus, as she catches it, her lips twitching. Mortals and their romance, she murmurs, but there's no bite. Historians still argue whether the Greeks saw the sky as art or divine will, but Hera's letting you treat it as both, and you're the apprentice who finally got it right. You add a final touch, a cirrus wisp curling into a peacock feather, pay nod to Hera's glory. It hums, glowing with prophecy, and she nods, her eyes softening. Her first joke lands gently. Last intern's graduation cloud looked like a goat. Mortals built a shrine. You laugh, the absurdity easing the weight of the moment, and keep refining, ensuring every cloud sings in unison. Your arms are steady, the rods warp the soft glow, and the sky's a masterpiece, your legacy etched in vapor. Hera's second joke lands. Zeus tried a cloudscape once. It rained for a month. You chuckle, picturing his mess, and it grounds you, keeping the moment light. The bigger picture unfolds. This cloudscape is Hera's way of passing her mantle, trusting you to carry the sky's balance forward. She hints that your work will linger, guiding mortals and gods alike. You're tempted to ask if she'll miss your clumsy efforts, but her warm glance silences that thought. Instead, you polish a final cumulus, its glow humming with joy, and Hera's third joke lands. Athena's cloudscape was too neat. No soul. You laugh, her sass a final gift, and the sky's complete. A celestial dream blending into her eternal canvas dot. As the session fades, you sink onto the platform, the clouds below shimmering like a lullaby in light. The air grows softer, the hum of ether slowing, wrapping you in a gentle embrace. Hera's voice dims, her words lengthening, each syllable a whisper of calm. You've done enough, she murmurs, her tone a velvet blanket. Let the sky hold you now. The clouds drift lazily, their glow fading into a starry haze, each wisp curling like a sigh. You feel weightless, the platform dissolving into mist. The skies hum a distant song. The world softens, edges blurring, as Hera's presence lingers, a quiet promise of rest. Your eyes grow heavy. The clouds light a final cradle, rocking you gently toward sleep. The sky's yours now, a dream to carry, and Hera's whisper fades, soft as starlight, guiding you into peace.